Alrighty, everyone. It is 12 o'clock Arizona time, so I will go ahead and kick us off. All right, well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's our first Insider Perspectives and Stories of 2025. Can you believe it? Man, how time flies. My goodness, it's already here. My name is Maddie Wagner. I am the Digital Marketing Specialist with Johnson Consulting Group. Just as a friendly reminder, a few housekeeping items. Please type questions into the Q&A area during this discussion. We will answer questions at the end of the session. Other things to note, in order to reduce distractions, all attendees' cameras and mics are turned off. Once again, we are utilizing the Q&A area for questions, and we have a lot of time at the end of the session to answer those. And with that, Lacey, take it away.
Thank you, Maddie. Welcome, everyone. I'm delighted to host this month's Johnson Consulting Conversations on transforming cold leads into hot leads in funeral service. We have an exceptional guest with us today, Jill Lazar, VP of Business Development for Ring Ring Marketing. Jill brings unique insights from both being a licensed funeral director and a certified pre-planning consultant. She's been a featured presenter at ICCFA's Dead Talks and their international convention. And most recently, she is a selected independent Funeral Homes Leadership Academy participant, and her expertise in growing pre-need market share and developing strategic partnerships makes her the perfect person to guide us through this crucial topic. Welcome, Jill. We're delighted to have you.
Thank you so much, Lacey. It's an honor to be on here with you. Thank you for having me.
And I want us to start off in talking about what exactly is a cold lead and how are hot leads defined and why it's important for funeral service providers to differentiate between the two.
That's a great question, Lacey. I describe a cold lead as a lead, somebody who has pretty much raised their hand and said, yes, I'm interested in what you have to offer. I would like to learn more. But they're not necessarily ready to jump in. They're not necessarily ready to purchase. A warm lead is somebody who maybe did some research. They're learning more about what you have to offer and how that's going to help them. And they're beginning to consider moving to wrapping that up. Where a hot lead is a person who knows they want to take care of things. They want to come into the funeral home and get things wrapped up when we're talking about pre-need funeral arrangements. And it's really important to know where your families are along this line, because some of these families are going to need a little bit of nurturing to move them closer to a hot lead as opposed to a cold lead. So cold leads are important because they are the future hot leads.
That's a crucial distinction you've made there. And it's interesting to hear about the different layers within cold leads and hot leads, and thinking about that person that's raised their hand. That's a whole separate layer of cold leads that does need to be nurtured. And reaching those different types of leads is crucial. What targeted marketing techniques have you found to be the most effective in funeral service for converting those cold leads where they're raising their hand to becoming a very hot lead?
Oh, that's a tricky question, Lacey, because there are so many different forms of marketing. And in my opinion, I believe that they're all really valuable. Many years ago, a sales manager taught me that leads need to be coming from a variety of places. You get them from all over the place. And I believe that to be true about marketing. So we have to be hitting marketing in a number of different areas because you never know where you're going to reach this person. Is it going to be on social media? Will it be direct mail? Perhaps it's going to be community outreach. We never know where it is that we're going to make a point to this person or to a group. But moving them along that scale from cold lead to hot lead could be a gradual experience for each person. And each of those times that you have the opportunity to touch them moves them a little bit on the scale. So I'm an advocate of a lot of different types of marketing. I don't know of one to be a silver bullet.
You bring up a really great phrase, which is that gradual experience, and patience is key in transferring those cold leads to hot leads. And I think your insights on targeted marketing have always been truly fascinating. And since you've mentioned reaching out to different communities and talking about community engagement, what role does that play in transforming cold leads, and how has it worked for you in the past?
It has worked really well for me when I become completely immersed in working with the community. And what I mean by that is when we go out and become involved with our community, we can start to meet people where they're at and make them more comfortable with the idea of not only coming into the funeral home, but thinking along the lines of being prepared is a really good idea, not a scary idea. So I have found that getting out into the community, doing community events, plus all the other marketing that we do is key in getting people to trust and begin to work with you, whether that's one event or several events. We never know how many events or marketing pieces it's going to take to move that one person to a purchase.
And the more lead generators you have, the more leads that you possibly will have to move forward with. And I know that you've worked with veterans groups in the past as part of your community engagement strategy. Can you speak to a little bit about how you've reached out to the veteran community?
Yes, the veteran community is interesting because they already have preformed groups. You have the VFW, you have the American Legion. There's often specific groups to different areas. And those groups, if you reach out to them, most of the time they're looking for speakers. I've been able to connect with them and talk about veteran death benefits, funeral pre-planning. And the beautiful part about that is it gives us as funeral directors and cemeterians an opportunity to honor the veteran and talk to them not only about how important their service was, but how do they want to be remembered. And when you respect that, they begin to trust and want to work with you, want to get those things organized. So we put together a number of events where I used to work, where we would show movies at the funeral home, veteran related movies. We did seminars on veteran death benefits and how to pre-plan and work them into your pre-arrangements. And I have to admit, the more we did it, the better attended it was because it was simply word of mouth and getting the word out that we are approachable and easy to work with.
That's a great example, and I like the variety of topics and activities that you planned for veteran groups. It really shows the power of local connections and how you've been able to use that to grow market share. Building on that, in your opinion, what is the best form of advertising for funeral service providers today, and why?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's a variety of different marketing avenues. So we might think of direct mail. Direct mail, believe it or not, is still a really useful piece of marketing. I know if I think of my own habits, I go to my mailbox, and before I enter my house, I drop all my junk mail into the recycle bin. And then I come into the house and go through what's left. But interestingly enough, I will retain the pieces of junk mail from local businesses. I want to see what the local businesses are doing, whether that's a lunch and learn event or they're announcing a discount. So, not just talking about funeral service, talking about the other businesses that market via direct mail. I find my own habits are to pull some of those pieces out of my mail and look at them. And we find that people still do use paper coupons from time to time. So direct mail is still a viable source of advertising. Of course, digital marketing is so important. That's the first way we look for things. We pick up our phone, we look for everything, restaurants, funeral homes, of course, anything we're doing where we pick up our phone and we look for that. So digital marketing, of course, has a really, it's at the center of all this. However, we have social media, and I can't say that I'm attached to just one. In my opinion, it takes everything to come together to deliver a unified message about your business.
Interesting perspective on the modern advertising avenues that are out there. And I have the very same practice when I come home and I check the mail. I drop that junk mail off in recycling before I enter my home. I don't want to see another coupon for HelloFresh, but yes, I keep everything that is local that goes inside with me, and it's a really good practice to be in. But it speaks to the local name and recognition and brand awareness, where people do want to keep the local mailings that come in the mail. And I want to talk a little bit more about that traditional form of advertising. Thinking about the digital age, why is that traditional mailer still considered one of the most effective ways and a vital part of a marketing strategy for a funeral home? What is it about it?
Well, if I could answer that question, I would be probably a millionaire. But I would say, in my opinion, when we get a piece of mail, whether that's a survey or an invitation to an event, we respond to that if we're interested. If we're not interested, it goes in the recycle bin. But the people that respond to direct mail are definitely raising their hand saying, I'm definitely interested in this. I want to come to this event. Whereas if we're on social media, let's just imagine Facebook for a moment. We've all seen events on Facebook that we think, oh, that looks interesting. I'm going to hit that. I'm going to go to that. But when the day comes, if a better offer comes along, we may choose to do something else. So I would say Facebook and social media may be a little bit less reliable when it comes to seminars and planning for something like that. But when you receive an invitation in the mail and you respond to that, 9 out of 10 times you show up at that event, probably a higher percentage of that. But when you respond on social media, it's probably a little bit lower. The commitment level is a little bit lower.
Now, that makes for a compelling case for those traditional methods in comparison to social media advertising. I want to shift to a more personalized approach in ways that personalization can be added to marketing communications that, of course, will increase or improve lead conversion rates. How does that work, and what does that entail?
Well, one thing that I've learned throughout the years, and certainly working at Ring Ring Marketing, we're encouraged to have our faces in front of everyone, whether that's on LinkedIn and social media. We do videos. Having your face in front of people allows them to open up to begin trusting. So when they see your face, a level of trust begins. So when you're branding your funeral home or cemetery, the more advertising you can do that shows your staff, shows the human side to your business, I believe that you create a higher level of trust with the public. That certainly is true. I'm also a big proponent in branding as much as you can possibly brand as you send it out into the community, whether that's your folders or information about your staff. If there's somebody coming into the funeral home and working with a funeral director, wouldn't it be great if you went home with a little biography about that funeral director and a photo? You'd know a little bit about the funeral director you're working with.
I want to give hats off to Welton because he is the most consistent funeral service partner with posting personal videos, more than one a week, that are very engaging, very helpful. And you had one recently, I think it was National Cat Day, and you held up your cat in the video. Is there a story behind that cat and why you did
Well,
that video?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about that. So, we are encouraged to share information on LinkedIn, shoot little videos that give little pointers or tips for the day. And somewhere along the line, working at Ring Ring, somebody gave me the tip, include a pet, you're going to get more interest. So it happened to be National Cat Day. And I had my two cats on my video with me. And that happened to be the video that got the very most interest in my history. So including your pets could just tip the scales a little bit to get some more interest in your videos. Yeah, that's a great point, Lacey.
So dogs and cats, they make a difference. But I
Yeah,
also want to talk about a data-driven approach, and really talk about how you can use that data to build on your strategies, and to build trust with potential clients, especially in such a sensitive profession, such as funeral service. It's more than just data and numbers.
yes, for sure. So the data of an area when you're looking at marketing, whether that is direct mail or digital marketing or any type of marketing, it's good to know who is living in your communities, but it's also good to know how those communities are changing, who's migrating in, who's migrating out, how things are changing, how those demographics look. And it's important to, as I said before, meet your community where they are. So if your community is changing to a more affluent group, you want to look for things that are important to them, whether that's charity donation or supporting a cause like the SPCA or YMCA. It's important that the funeral home and cemetery have a forward facing advertising that connects with the community and supports the community. Now, the other thing that I think is really important is as we see diversity enter our communities, it's also important to meet them where they're at, make sure that we have materials that they can read and connect with, and also have staff in place, if possible, that can be bilingual or multiple languages. It's definitely important to know how your communities are changing and what is important to those folks coming and going.
The central theme that I'm hearing in your messaging today is building trust with the community in different communities, different groups, making sure that that barrier of no trust gets knocked down in order to have these very real conversations about end of life issues. I know trust is a central theme in the classes that I teach at Worsham, and I want to talk about some other common obstacles that you are aware of that funeral service providers face when converting cold leads into hot leads.
Well, Lacey, I would like to tell a little story that involves you. Many years ago, before I knew who you were, an owner of the funeral home where I worked, handed me an old disc. And with a Sharpie written on it was Lacey Robinson phone skills. And I said, "Who's Lacey Robinson?" And I didn't want to listen to the disc, but I did. And the information that you shared on phone skills really changed my approach to answering the phones. And this could be a major key to converting leads from cold leads to hot leads simply by answering the phone correctly. We've all had phone calls where we've been the one making the phone call and somebody picks up and either they don't understand what you're asking for, or they might be rude, or you feel as though this person is not interested in what you have to say. And we get off of that phone call feeling really bad about the phone call. But we also have had those phone calls where you just connect with somebody. And it's kind of funny because one of the tips that you gave on that lesson was to ask the question, do you have a pen or pencil? And of all the things I've learned, that has been one of the things that has really helped me because I would answer the phone, make sure I'd ask how those folks are doing. Are you doing okay? Who are you planning for? I want to make sure I get you all the information, but can you tell me, do you have a pen or pencil with you? And that seems to be the moment where people are like, oh, she's going to share everything I need to know. She wants me to be able to write it down. And so I have to say, phone skills are so important to being able to convert those leads. And you could lose hot leads if you don't answer your phone correctly. So phone skills are probably my number one tip on conversion.
Well, I hope that was a compact disc that the funeral home owner gave you and not a floppy disk. But my cremation phone program is certainly the most requested training program with JCG clients. They know the importance of fine-tuning those communication skills. And you're right, you can lose a hot lead if you don't take those phone inquiries serious and think about how you can get to know the family over the phone and to build a relationship based on trust and sharing with them everything that your funeral home has to offer. And I know those challenges resonate with many of the attendees we have with us today. And thinking about solutions with that, and technology is certainly has transformed the way funeral service providers approach lead conversion. What specific tools do you recommend?
One of my favorite tools for lead conversion is a CRM, case management or client management system. When you're able to take notes every single time you're in contact with people, it creates a database that you can reflect upon when working with people individually. So let's go back to those veteran events I talked about. There would be invitations sent, people would respond to them, and when they would respond, their name and any information I had on them would go into my CRM. By the time I'm finally seeing them to work on their prearrangements at the funeral home, I may have been in contact with them 4 or 5 times. Maybe I made a note that they came to a veteran event. Maybe they came to a lunch and learn. Maybe there was a phone call from them last year. But by the time I'm sitting with them, I now have a little bit of information with them, and it helps me to personalize my meeting with them. So if I learned a little bit about them as I met them in previous events, I took little notes on that. So I might be able to start out the conversation like, oh, I know your daughter got married last year. How did that go? I'm able to greet them with a very personal introduction because I know a little bit about them. Had I not had the CRM, it would be really hard for me to pull details out of my head. And even sometimes you remember a face, but you may not remember the name or where you've seen them before. So the CRM was a game changer for me.
I highly recommend to anybody thinking about a CRM to strongly consider it, because it definitely relieves the stress of administrative tasks. So you can focus on the phone conversations, you can focus on the in-person interactions that are taking place, and it's all about relationship building and removing the stress of those administrative tasks and trying to remember every single detail about a person. It can be very, very stressful. That is a great recommendation. It is very practical. I want to switch to the digital presence and using technology for marketing purposes, specifically social media and those platforms. What do you recommend in making that work and getting the most value out of those practices?
I believe it's important to be present, to be in front of people, whether that's, well, not either or, but also on social media, public community outreach, direct mail. I think it's important to be hitting all of these things. People are on social media a lot. So that's a great opportunity for you to get faces in front of people, your name in front of people, but also the other great things you're doing in the community. When you're out in the community supporting an event, take pictures, be a part of that, because those are the moments that people really pay attention. Now you can always boost the post and get it in front of more people. But it's also nice when you have some organic interest, when you have something that you're doing that is of interest to people. It's all of these things that culminate together that develop a really good pre-need and marketing program. If you pull them apart, it's almost like one does not stand alone. You need all the pieces together to have a really strong program.
And we like likes, we like the comments, we like shares, but what are the real metrics that funeral service providers need to focus on to measure the success of their lead conversion strategies?
That's a tough question because there's a lot of different ways to measure. I would always look at pre-need, but part of what we need to do is we have to be honest with ourselves. How good is the program working, and do we need to make any changes? I don't like to evaluate things after 1 month or even 3 months. I like to give a full 12 months for a program and then evaluate. Hey, what did we spend on direct mail? What did we spend on lunch and learns? And how much did we write in pre-need? Because we may need to move marketing dollars from one type of marketing to another type of marketing. If we were really successful on Facebook or we were really successful with our Google reviews, maybe we want to focus more on that. If something wasn't working really well, we have to ask ourselves, why didn't that work? Is this something we want to continue and tweak or something we want to eliminate? But at the end of the year, it's important because what you hope to see is increasing sales every year. Now, at some point, it will most likely plateau. But if you have a new program, a new marketing program in place, you should start to see an increase.
Before I get to my final question on digital marketing strategies, I want to dive in a little bit about when people leave items in their cart. And what does that say to the pre-need specialist? And
Okay,
what's the
so
opportunity?
that's so what Lacey is talking about is on some funeral homes websites, there is the option to build your funeral, just like you would be shopping at Banana Republic for me. So wherever you go shopping, you have your shopping cart, you're putting things in it as you go. It's a shopping experience that we're used to. Think Amazon. On some websites, you could have that same shopping experience. What type of service do you want? Are you thinking about cremation or a traditional service? Drop it in your cart. You could add all the automobiles that you need to your cart. If it's going to be a traditional service, let's take a look at caskets. Pick a casket. So you get to have the entire shopping experience. And at the end of that, they could choose to check out and pay for it, or they could choose to, like we all do, leave the cart abandoned and walk away from it, which is oftentimes what happens. But some of these programs will capture the lead, and that becomes a lead for the pre-need counselor or the person that's following that up. 9 out of 10 times, if you call that person who has gone all the way through the experience but didn't pay, you're going to be able to, at very least, have a conversation with them. You were on our website, you built a cart. Is there any questions that you have about that? So it's one more point of contact, and it would be wonderful if that closed. If the person said, yeah, I would love to come in and wrap this up, but I just didn't want to do it online. I didn't want to put that much on my credit card.
From the consumer perspective, there is a huge sense of satisfaction of scrolling through, putting things in the cart, whether I buy them or not. It was a shopping experience that brought me satisfaction. And I can see from your perspective that you want to keep building on that sense of satisfaction that that hot lead may be feeling in that very moment. It's a great example and certainly something for owners and managers and pre-need specialists to look into. I want us to, before I talk to you about the selected independent experience, because I do want to get into that, how should funeral service providers adapt their lead conversion strategies in response to this ever-changing market conditions and especially consumer behaviors?
Yes, I always like to look at every person, which we refer to as a lead, a hot lead, a cold lead, a warm lead. But in the end, they're people. People are people. And when we're looking at lead conversion, especially right now, things are being sold to us all the time. We can't walk down the street without something grabbing our attention, or we look at our phone, something is constantly being sold to us. Well, as people, we have a natural inclination to just say, I'm not buying today. until we are buying, but it's a defense mechanism. If we bought everything that was offered to us, we would be in a lot of trouble. So, so when people come to the funeral home and they want to learn about funeral pre-planning, but maybe they don't want to pay, sometimes that's just breaking down some barriers of trust. So I find that building rapport is becoming more and more important all the time because people always feel sold, and you never want anybody to feel sold when they're sitting with you in an arrangement. You want them to feel like they trust you, and you want to feel as though you're educating them and helping them. But it takes rapport to build that relationship and break down those walls a little bit.
And I think that statement of, I'm not going to buy anything today, it's the easiest wall, the quickest wall to put up for that consumer. That's a great example. And I know a lot of consumers can relate to that. I want to talk about your experience with the Selected Independent Funeral Homes Leadership Academy and what that entailed, that entire experience, and what lessons you learned along the way, because it's a special group and a special experience.
Yeah, so for anybody who does not know what that is, Selected Independent Funeral Homes, now called Selected, has a leadership academy, and it's a 2-year program. It's intensive. We've had to read a lot. I will be graduating in April, and I'm working on my capstone now. But it was powerful because for a number of reasons, but one of them was that it connected me with other funeral directors who are in similar roles. Perhaps they're in a leadership role at their funeral home, or they're one of the owners, or they manage one of the locations. And it gave me an opportunity to connect with all the different experiences and challenges that they're having. And we ended up all being really close. In the beginning, I thought, oh, like, I'll see these people once a year and this will be great. We'll spend a week together. But no, we connect all the time. And I feel like we're learning all the time together. So I would imagine these relationships are relationships I will have throughout the rest of my career. The other thing that has been really kind of neat is some funeral homes have selected to send every funeral director through the academy one at a time. And what that would do for a funeral home is create a really cohesive team that's on the same page, and most of all, knows how to communicate with each other in a way that is incredibly productive, because the goal is to understand and work through the problems and move forward with whatever it is that you're working on at the funeral home where you're at. So it's interesting because one of the things that I really learned about myself was I need to give space between hearing something and reacting to it. That was my big takeaway, is give myself time to absorb what I'm hearing before I respond. But it also teaches a lot about how to interpret other people, how to listen to other people, how to understand their personality differences, how to understand your own personality. And so it was a really great experience for me. And I would truly encourage anybody that is part of Selected to take advantage of the Academy.
Thank you for sharing those details. Congratulations on your participation and upcoming graduation. It sounds like a fellowship at an Ivy League college. It does sound very intense. Thank you for joining us and sharing your valuable insights today. I want to throw it to Maddie to see if we have any questions in the chat feature. Or you, Jill.
Let's take a look-see here. Oh my goodness, you guys, it looks like you answered everybody's questions. There's none to be had. Everybody's speechless.
That's awesome. Well, if any questions pop up, please feel free to submit those to Johnson Consulting Group, and we will make sure that Jill answers that question fully. And Jill, I know how much you enjoyed your first trip to Kentucky last year, and it wasn't just all fun with my Bourbon Legends tour. You were also attending a workshop that I was facilitating, and I commend you for always showing up and willing to learn more for the benefit of Ring Ring clients. You try to be everywhere. You're attending things. You are a lifelong learner, and I think it's just an incredible quality to have in a funeral service partner. With that said, it is with great pride on the behalf of Johnson Consulting Group that I bestow to you the title Kentucky Colonel, and not just you, Jill, Welton, who has been joining us today. Congratulations, but recognizing both of your outstanding contributions to funeral service, your dedication and Welton's consistent is very consistent in embodying the spirit of goodwill and distinction that really defines this prestigious honor. So may this recognition serve as a testament to your remarkable impact and inspire continued excellence for everyone in funeral service. And it just so happens that we have someone who joined us listening to or watching our conversation that has the distinct honor of being named a Kentucky Colonel twice. And
wow.
He's a funeral home owner in Kentucky. So thank you, Chris, for joining us. And that is a huge honor. We are among the greats with Kentucky Colonels. Welcome to the club, Jill, and thank you for joining us.
Lacey, I don't even know what to say, but I will say thank you from both Welton and I. That is quite an honor and completely unexpected. So I will be excited to hang that in a place of prominence in my house. What an honor. Thank you so much.
Our pleasure. We thank both of you for being great funeral service partners. And I want to share with our audience what's happening next month. I'm excited to welcome Bob Arrington, founder of Arrington Funeral Directors in Jackson, Tennessee, and he's partner of Obituary Share. He is going to be our February's Johnson Consulting Conversations guest, and he's going to share insights into Obituary Share, which is an innovative online platform that provides funeral homes strategic and seamless promotion of obituaries and memorial service details across multiple channels. It is fascinating what they're able to accomplish in driving traffic to a funeral home's website and increasing in-person attendance to funerals and memorial services. Save the date for February 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, Jill, and thank you, Maddie, and we'll see everybody February the 12th.
Thank you, Lacey.